Hi guys, welcome back. I want to go over some basics of photo editing with you today. Now, over the years, I've learned that it can be very overwhelming to learn everything about photo editing, so I think it's come down to basically your own style and how you want your photos to look and what things you absolutely need in your photo editing workflow. So my quick list that I've come up with includes, first of all, exposure. We want to make sure everything looks about correct as far as like how it looked in real life and how you want your photo to look compared to how you took the photo and what it looks like straight out of your camera. And the next thing we're going to look at is color correction. Now this can mean going over the whole image and how all the colors look in general, but also it can relate to skin tones, and that's kind of its own separate thing, but I will go over that as well. I have a few different things that I do use for skin tones, so I'll go into detail about that in just a moment. The next thing I want to talk about is crop and composition. We're going to take a look at our photos and how they look as far as if they're the correct direction or if we have to kind of alter them a little bit, and if we want to crop them down at all to make a stronger photo and cut out unnecessary things that we took in our photo. And then last and not least, I want to look at blemish removal. And in that way, I mean, are there things in your photos you definitely want to take out of your photos? Sometimes it can be background images or things that, popped in there that you didn't intend, or it can simply be actual blemishes like on people's skin, or it can be stray hair removal, all that kind of thing. So we'll get into all these steps here in just a moment, but first I want to tell you an absolute game changer for my editing workflow has been my Wacom tablet. I have had this thing for like 8 years, and as you can see, it's very worn out, and it's just an awesome tool, and it just changed everything for me. So if you're able to get something like this and incorporate it into your workflow, I promise you it'll save you a ton of time. I'll actually include a link of it in the description, so if you want to go to Amazon and purchase one, I'll get a little bit of a commission if you click through that link. So, are you ready? Let's get started. Okay, the first thing we want to do is open our image in Photoshop. That's what we'll be working in today for this tutorial. And first of all, we want to go up here to our layer tab and hit duplicate layer so we don't make any destructive edits. Once we have our copy of this layer, we're going to go up to filter and then camera raw filter. And the first thing we want to work on is going to be in our basic tab. There'll be a bunch of tabs here. We're working in basic, and we want to go ahead and up our exposure. If your image was shot in a darker part of the day, like this one was a little bit after sunset, or any time where it just wasn't quite bright enough, exposure here is going to correct everything for us in that department. It's very easy to do. Now, if you see a little area that might look a little whitish or a little too bright, let's go ahead and bring our highlights down. Okay, I think that looks pretty good as far as where I want my exposure to be. Then from here, let's look at our color temperature, and meaning if it looks a little cool to you or a little warm, we can adjust that very easily right here. So we're going to go up to the temperature slider and move that a little bit to the right just to make it look a little bit warmer so it doesn't look so chilly out there. And I think that looks pretty good right there. So we're going to go ahead and hit OK, and that's going to bring us back into where we were before. And then we're going to also make another copy of this layer so we can work on the next thing. So let's go to layer, duplicate. Now from here, we want to go in and fix any skin tones that might be a little bit off, maybe take some red out. In this particular case, it looks like the mom has a little bit of red showing up in her face. Now, she may not have looked that way in person, but sometimes when we get into editing software, we can see where colors change a little bit and become a little wonky. So what we're going to do from here is we're going to go ahead and open up filter, again, camera raw filter. Now, in this process, I'm going to just go through it very quickly with you, but I have a whole separate tutorial on this topic, and I even created an action for this, so it's as simple as clicking a button and brushing it on someone's skin to take red out. I also have an action to take orange out of skin tones because that is another common color that seems to pop up maybe when people have more tan skin tones or different things like that. So if you'd like an easier route, you can definitely check out the link in the description showing how to purchase those actions. But for this purpose, we're going to go ahead and do it by hand this time. So going down to here, we're going to be in our color mixer tab this time. Click on that. We want to be under adjust in the HSL. This is going to give us hue, saturation, luminance. And we do want to work in saturation in this case. So go ahead to your reds, and in this case, since I'm bringing the red down in this particular face, we're just going to slide this to the left a little bit, and maybe even bring our orange down just a tiny bit to where it looks a little more realistic, or how we want it to look, I should say. So once we have that, let's go ahead and hit OK. Now, I don't want to apply this to everybody's face in the image because not everybody needs that. So I'm going to create a layer mask, and then I'm going to hit Command I on my keyboard to invert that layer. Then I want to go over here and select my brush tool, and I have a soft round brush selected. I have my mode set to normal. I have my opacity, flow, and smoothing set to 100%. So I'm just going to zoom in here and brush over the areas that I want to reduce the redness in. And if you want to take off anything, you can just invert the color of your brush. Oh, I forgot to mention that, I'm sorry. But the brush color selected here is white because on an inverted layer, that's what's going to show up. So if you accidentally go over an area, say her mouth, where I didn't want to reduce the red in her lip color, I can go back in here and select black. And then I can take it off of the areas that I wanted to. Makes it very, very easy. Okay, so let me go ahead and zoom out, and let me turn this layer on and off to see the red difference. It may be hard to see it in this tutorial, but I think that the red is reduced just enough where I think it looks really good. So that is good. So let's go ahead and we're going to combine these two layers. Select both and go up and hit merge layer under your tab up here. So since we've done all the color corrections to the main part of the image and corrected any color issues in skin tones or anything like that that you want to work with, the next thing I want to look at is removing any blemishes. I'm going to go once again and make a copy of this layer, so duplicate layer. And then we're going to go over here to this handy dandy little spot healing brush tool. This thing is awesome. All right, I'm going to go ahead and zoom in. If there's anything in your image you need to fix, maybe it is a blemish on someone's face, maybe it is, in this case, there's a very tiny speck of grass on her jeans, couple things, and I'm just going over them and basically just bleeping them off. And I am using this Wacom tablet. It is so much faster to edit with versus a mouse and even a trackpad. I find that using a pen on this Wacom tablet just makes my stuff go so much faster. So that is why I definitely recommend checking that out if you don't have one. Okay, and then also, excuse me, the next thing I kind of look for is stray hairs. Sometimes there are a few stray hairs. Maybe it's windy, maybe it's not. But if there's anything you want to fix, this spot healing brush tool is also great for that. So go over any areas where you need to. And if something doesn't work out and you accidentally, use the spot healing brush where you didn't intend to, just hit your back button, just undo your last action, and that will take it away. Okay, so from here, I think that I have all of my blemishes removed where I want them. Everything's looking good. The last thing I'm gonna do is crop this image. I actually wanna rotate it a little bit. So let's go over here to our crop tool. And if I bring my cursor over here to the right, you'll see that it's a little curved arrow. And this allows you to kind of just turn it a little bit. I'm just raising up my, my cursor and making it turn the image. I kind of want that back line of the grass to be straight. That does better things for my eye than just seeing it tilted. And it helps the people sit up more upright. I think it just makes the image stronger. So I'm going ahead and twisting it to where I think it looks good. Also, I'm gonna kind of cut out some of this foreground here because I don't think it's necessary. And I wanna kind of move things over. So this just comes into play with composition. How does it look to you? How do you wanna make your photo look? Will it look stronger if you move the subjects around a little bit and crop out some things that maybe you don't need? Also on this tool, I left it at original ratio. If you don't select original ratio, it may kind of skew it in a different way and it may crop it to where you don't want it to, be a certain dimension. So that's something to consider. I also did not select to delete my cropped pixels because if I want to go ahead and change anything back, I don't want that stuff to be gone later. So I think this looks about where I want it as far as rotating it and cropping it. So I'm gonna hit the check mark as in okay. And this is where we're at. Now, I think this looks really great. I don't really think this image needs a whole lot more. So in this case, I'm gonna go ahead and just merge visible, and that's basically going to bring it all together. You can also flatten your image, it's all the same. And then I'm gonna save it from here. So remember to save it. Make sure you have a copy of your original or raw file in case you want to change anything else. I think that's really important. But basically, those are the main things that I'm going to recommend for basic editing in every photo. Thank you for watching. I hope you found this helpful. If you enjoyed this video, please remember to subscribe, and I will see you next time.